What's up everyone and welcome to another Let's Max Warframe. The other day we did the Balla Dagger, the new top single target DPS melee weapon. The focus of today's is away from that single target and more onto the group clear. The weapon I have so far to be found at the best of that is the Orthos Prime. Orthos Prime is about as old school as you can get. Orthos was well received when it was introduced into the game and people were stoked when the Prime came out. It fell out of use quite a bit when the Zors came out, mostly because the Zors were really in another league when it came to damage output, while having the same usability that the Orthos did. However, Melee 3.0 is here, and that has all turned upside down. Orthos Prime is one of those weapons that's not on the table for vaulting anytime soon, so you can get out there and just get relics for it easy enough, or you could even buy a cheap set on Warframe Market. They don't go for much. Once you've got it built up though, you have a weapon with a nice base damage, heavy emphasis on slash, you've got enough crit for Blood Rush and the Gladiator set to work off of, and enough status where we don't have to use dual stats to boost our status chance. Combine that with the equal highest range of all of the melee weapons in the game, and you have the basis of the build for this weapon. We also have a choice between a number of stances, however, the one we're going for is Shimmering Blight. This is because we have the standard combo Slashing Wind, which is not only the stationary E combo, but also the forward W combo as well. The fact that it has this amount of multi-hitting wide attacks combined with the range of the weapon, plus no slowdown from any of the animations during the stance, means that you become this crazy blender of death while keeping up some really decent mobility. Build-wise, I'm going to be showing the build that I'm using, however, it's not actually the strongest build for it. Don't worry, that will actually all make sense as we go along. Shimmering Blight is going to be our stance here, Condition Overload for our base damage, since we don't want to be stacking it with Prime Pressure Point. And basically, this is going to proc amazingly well. You proc status brilliantly, so you're going to be almost consistently hitting harder than you would be with the Prime Pressure Point. You've got Prime Reach on here for the extra 3 meters of range, that puts that blender to work over a larger area. Blood Rush and Organ Shatter for crit chance and crit damage. Weeping Wounds to increase our status chance as our combo counter goes up, and that's going to proc reliably to keep Condition Overload always running, as well as Strip Armor. Prime Fever Strike and Shocking Touch for corrosive damage. Because we've got Weeping on here, we can actually go with those full-on elementals rather than dual stats, and that's going to increase our damage a lot. Final slot here is for our attack speed. Normally, I would recommend Berserker here, however, honestly, while Berserker is clearly the best option, and it's the highest DPS version of this weapon, I can't recommend using it. The attack speed is way too high for regular use. If you don't attack fast enough, the stance breaks and you do this terrible sort of slap attack. However, if you're attacking at the speed you need to for the stance to work, it's quite literally RSI inducing. I've never not been able to recommend a build purely because of health reasons, and since macros are not something I can actually recommend, I would say drop Berserker down to Gladiator Vice. The 30% more attack speed feels really nice, and then you get the additional Gladiator crit chance scaling. At least dropping that attack speed a bit is offset a little bit by the Gladiator set, not fully, but a little bit. Combine that with the Gladiator mods on your frame and your Deconstructor Prime, and you actually throw out so much damage, it's a bit crazy. The Orthos Prime was a weapon that had faded into obscurity quite a bit. Melee 3.0 though has thrown it back into the limelight again in the best way possible. So many of the stances feel kind of clunky now. The fact that Shimmering Blight is so smooth, it doesn't impact mobility at all, whilst being fantastically effective is such a nice thing. You can see it in the footage, slicing through the level 5 Lich Mission enemies with absolutely no problem whatsoever. And while it doesn't have the same sort of single target damage output that the Dagger does that I did the other day, and will struggle a little bit with the more heavy units like a Nox or a Bombard, it's the most effective longer range melee out there right now, even though range doesn't actually mean anywhere near what it used to now that range mods are fixed rather than percentage based. There's only maybe one, maybe sometimes even only a half a meter between weapons. But it feels odd that I can't recommend the best build for this because it's completely unreasonable to pull off. The fact that the Orthos Prime with literally only Berserker not only breaks the stance, but starts to hurt your finger after 10 minutes of optimal play, it's kind of silly. It's not like I'm doing anything silly and stacking all of the speed mods. This is quite literally base weapon with a single speed mod. While I'm not going to recommend using macros, because in Warframe there's a massive grey area, I can 100% see people macroing this, not because of some attempt at being efficient, but to avoid getting RSI from having to spam the attack that many times. Perhaps it's time for the game just to allow you to be able to hold E and have that be enough to attack automatically as fast as you actually have it modded. You know, you hold E, your weapon swings as fast as you have it modded to do. Melee is, and always has been, smash E to win. You want to put out more DPS, put on more attack speed, and smash faster. Nothing has really changed there. In fact, with this new Melee, even the meta has shifted more into that smash faster mentality, which has worsened the problem. You don't get punished for putting fire rate on your primaries and secondaries, the fully auto ones anyway, because those that fire slower, like basically the semi-auto things, tend to hit a bit harder to compensate, which isn't really the case with Melee. So from an accessibility and honestly a quality of life perspective, it might be something to worth putting in the options as a toggleable option. So it's an opt-in, opt-out system. Then you can concentrate on doing your combos, using the W, using right click, rather than smashing that E button constantly. I actually would be very interested to hear your thoughts on that in the comments below, especially from controller users, because I just want to know whether you think that this would be something that you actually might make use of. But anyways, that is slightly off topic there. The Orthos Prime, though, is one of the top melees right now. What it lacks in single target compared to the Balla dagger I did a video of the other day, it makes up for in the fact that it does a load of damage to everything in its vicinity. It's super smooth to use. It hits like a truck, and it just feels great to use all around. I'd recommend going back and checking this thing out again if you haven't. So I hope you've enjoyed my look at what I feel the two weapons that came out best from this new Melee rework. I might do some others that I feel are worth taking a look at specifically, but honestly all the builds are likely to be pretty much the same. Now we've figured out Melee modding, there's actually very little variety. In fact, there's actually less than before. So I'm likely to stop doing Melee builds again. I might do a video on general modding for Melee weapons. Other than that, very, very few specific weapons are going to get their own video. Weapon builds, honestly, are in a pretty terrible spot. Most of them are exactly the same as each other, and Melee is the worst of them. Because at least the guns have other things to make them feel different to each other, fire rate and recoil and stuff. Most Melee just feels the same as each other. What this does mean, though, is that going back to my rebuild series, where that's where the true modding is, and that is the Warframes themselves. So stay tuned for that. Let me know if there's anything you would like to see me cover in the comments below. Video on my thoughts on the Kuvalich system coming soon, but for now, many thanks for watching. Smash that like button, hit that bell for more Warframe content, and I shall see you in the next video.